Okay.
Are we ready?
Steady go.
Okay. Well, welcome
Okay.
again, everybody. It's lesson 2
Are we
of
ready?
How to Be Your Own Genie,
Steady
or whatever it
go.
is we're going to call this thing. I don't know.
Okay. Well, welcome
Okay.
So,
again, everybody.
just to
It's
recap,
lesson 2
I thought I'd ask
of
a
How to
couple
Be Your Own
questions. So,
Genie,
what
There you
is
go.
whatever it is we're going
the
to call this
first
thing? I don't know.
basic
that we
welcome
learned
again, everybody.
in lesson
Just to
1.
recap 2
I thought I'd ask
of
a
How to
couple
Be Your Own
questions. So,
Genie,
what
There you
is
whatever it
go.
is we're going
the
to call this thing.
first
I don't know.
basic?
Okay.
Anyone?
We
learned
in
lesson
just to
1.
recap 2
I thought I'd ask
of
a
How to
couple
Be Your Own
questions. So,
Genie,
what is
whatever it is we're going to
the
call this thing.
first?
I don't know.
Don't all
basic.
speak at
Anyone?
once.
So,
in lesson
just to
1.
recap 2
I thought I'd ask.
I forgot what a basic is.
whatever it is we're going to
The
call this
first.
thing. I don't know.
Don't all
Okay.
speak at
The
once.
first basic
is the teachability index.
I forgot what a basic is. Okay. Got it.
Don't all
Okay.
speak at once.
The first basic.
Or you could say, who do you listen to? Because I think that
I
technically
forgot
is the
what a
first one.
basic
It
is.
can be any
Okay.
order.
Got
But
it.
yeah, one of the basics
Okay.
is the teachability index.
Or you could say,
And
who
that's
do
what
you
we learned in the
listen to?
first
I think that
lesson. So
technically is the
there's
first
2
one.
parts to the
Okay.
teachability
Got
index.
it.
Yeah, one of the
Can
basics
anyone
is
explain
the
it?
teachability index.
Or you could say,
And
who
that's
do
what
you
we learned in the
listen to?
first
I think
lesson.
that
So
technically is the
there's
What
2
is your
parts to the
willingness to
teachability
learn?
index.
So what are you willing to give up
Can anyone
or
explain it?
sacrifice in
Index?
order to learn your
And that's
lessons?
what we learned in
And
the
the
first
other is
lesson.
the
So
willingness to
there's
change.
2 parts to
So
the
how willing
teachability
are you
index.
to, what are you willing
Or
to
how
give
willing
up
are
or
you to
change
sacrifice
in order to make these hopes, dreams, and desires come true? The
willing
willingness to change.
What is your willingness
So how
to
willing
learn?
are you? So what are
Excellent.
you willing
Good
to,
job.
how willing are you to sacrifice?
All right. And another basic that you can write down. So if you have your notes from the first lesson, the second basic is, who do you listen to? So I actually did kind of touch on that in the first lesson. But another basic that you can write
anybody
down, so if you have your
can
notes
answer
from the
this.
first
Who
lesson,
do you listen to?
the second basic is, who do you listen to? So I actually did kind of touch on
Someone
that
who knows what they're
in
talking
the first
about.
lesson. But
yes, that's very good. Anybody
awesome.
can
Okay.
answer this.
Now,
Who do you
did
listen to?
anybody the second basic
run
is,
a
who do you
mind
listen
movie?
to? So I actually did kind of touch on
Someone
that
who knows what they're
in the
talking
first
about.
lesson. But
Yeah.
Yes, that's very good. Anybody
awesome.
can
Okay.
answer this.
Good.
Now,
Have you noticed synchronicities, or have you noticed that your mind movie is now going through the motions of the phi ratio? Good.
Now,
Have you noticed
Well,
synchronicities, or have you
because I had a
noticed
whole bunch of junk
that
going on
your
this last
mind
week, I
movie
just
is
listened to
now
these
going
today.
through
So
the
today was my first
motions
day.
of the phi
I wanted
ratio?
to make sure I was ready and able for
Have
tonight.
you noticed
Well,
synchronicities, or have you
because
noticed?
I had a
And
whole
anybody
bunch
else
of junk
willing to
going on
share?
this last week, I just listened to
now
these
going
today.
through
So today
I've
was
done
my
it a
first
couple
day.
times, not as often as I should have. I haven't
and
noticed a whole
able
lot
for
yet,
tonight.
but it is kind of fun.
Well,
Synchronicities, or have you
because I
Okay,
had a
and
whole bunch
anybody
of
else
junk
perfectly
going on
fine.
this last week,
So we're
I
probably
just
going to
listened
notice
to
more and
these
more
today.
as we go
So
through
today
I've
this.
was
done
my
it a
first
couple
People are going
times,
to have
not as often
stories
as I
of
should have. I haven't
synchronicities
noticed a whole
of
lot yet, but it
how
is kind of
their
fun.
heart's desire is getting
Okay,
closer.
and anybody
So
else
that
perfectly
should be
fine.
fun, as long
So
as
we're
people
probably gonna
are willing
notice more and more
to
as
share
we
the
go
stories,
through
because
this.
I've
sometimes
done
it's
it a couple
personal,
People are
right?
gonna
times,
have
not as often
stories
as I
And
should
that's
have.
perfectly
I
fine
haven't
too.
noticed a whole lot
Okay,
yet, but it
so
is kind of fun.
I wanted to
desire
ask if
is getting
anyone
closer.
is
So that should
experiencing
be fun, as
doubts,
long as people are willing
fears,
more and more to share the
or
stories, 'cause
otherwise,
sometimes it's
quote
personal,
unquote,
right?
negative
And that's perfectly
emotions
fine
I haven't
too.
noticed a whole lot
surrounding
yet.
your
So,
heart's
I
desire.
wanted to ask
If
is getting
anyone
closer.
is
So that should
experiencing
be fun, as
doubts,
long as people are willing
fears,
more and more to share the
or
stories, 'cause
otherwise,
sometimes it's
quote
Yes.
personal,
unquote,
right?
negative
And that's perfectly
emotions
fine too.
surrounding
Okay,
your
so
heart's
hey,
desire. Okay, so
wanted to
if you are
ask
experiencing
anyone is
negative
experiencing
emotions
as long as people
around
fears
when you
to
feel
share the stories,
about your heart's
Yes.
desire,
negative
why do you think that would be?
surrounding
You do,
your heart's
hey?
desire.
Okay, so
Wanted to
if you are
ask
experiencing
anyone is
negative
experiencing
emotions
as long as people
around
I'm
when
sure
you
there's
feel
some great
about your
psychological
heart's
answer, but I
desire,
just can't think of it.
why do you think that would be?
because his
You do,
teachability
hey?
index
Okay,
isn't
so
as high as
if
he
you
thinks
are
it is.
experiencing negative emotions,
Yes,
that could
around,
definitely
I'm
be
sure
one of
there's
the
some great
reasons.
psychological answer, but I just can't think of it.
Ultimately, it is probably
Because
because
his
you believe that
teachability
you are not
index
going
isn't
to
as high
get
as he
your
thinks
heart's
it is.
desire. negative emotions.
Yes, that could definitely
I'm
be
sure
one
that
of
makes
the
sense.
reasons.
Psychological
Um,
answer, but I
okay,
just
so
can't
we're going to
think
go
of it.
through that a little bit later of what to do. So I just wanted to plant that seed before going on to the next basic. So we learned the first basic
That
is
makes
the
sense.
teachability index,
Psychological answer, but I
and
just
then
can't
we
think of it.
learned about who do you listen to.
So I just
Now,
wanted to
the
plant that
third
seed
one
before
is
going
the
on to the
training
next
balance
basic.
scale.
So we
So
learned
you can write that down in your
That makes
notes
sense.
teachability
as
index,
number 3.
and then we
Okay,
learned
so
about who do you
the
listen
training
to.
balance scale, I want you to think
Now,
about a
the
balance.
third one is
So you have on one side, and then you have on the other side something. All right, so on one side, we're talking about the training balance scale. I want you to strategize, balance, planning. It's all in the mind. It's what are we going to do? And then on the other side of the scale is action. It's doing. It's physically going out and making it a reality.
It's all in the mind.
So I want you to think about those two different types of actions, or not actions, but two different types of things. Now, when we say training balance scale, this is a misnomer because when you think of balance, you would think that you should do both equally. So you're going to spend the same amount of time and effort on thinking as actually physically doing the project. But that's actually incorrect. When we're doing this, we should be 90% of the time thinking, and sometimes even 99% of the time we're going to be spending on the strategizing side of the balance scale. 90% of the time, and less than 10% should be spent on action. 9% of the time. Now, we're going to be spending. There's been studies done on this that the secret societies have done, and they have looked at focusing. Should be spent on and if you focus on something for 14 seconds, there's been studies done on this. That is equivalent to approximately 10 hours of physically working on a project. And if you focus on something, if you focus for longer, it increases the amount of hours that you would physically spend working on a project. And if you focus for 68 seconds for longer, it is equivalent to over 2,000 hours of hard physical work on a project. And if you focus so I want you to think now about a fly that gets trapped in your house of hard, and the fly sees a window on a project. And the fly tries to escape the house now by flying out of the window. But of course, it's going to hit the glass. And it tries again and again and again, but it keeps hitting its head against the glass. Eventually, this fly is going to die, of course, and it's going to be lying there dead, and it tries on the windowsill and again and again. It spent all of its time and energy trying to escape the. It could have noticed the door open and flown out of the door in a matter of 5 seconds, and it would have been free from the house. And that's why we spend most of our time on the thinking side, because it can save us loads and loads of effort that we don't have to waste time doing. Thinking and planning is going to save you time in the long run. Okay, when we do more thinking instead of action, it has an automatic effect on the brain. A lot of people think that if you just meditate and you just go, and you try to get, all of your money to come to you like that, it's just not going to work. And they laugh at the idea. But the truth is that when you start focusing your mind on reaching your goal, immediately you will get excited and it will make you hop into action to make your dreams come true because you're thinking of getting what you want. But what if you are not excited or blissfully happy when you think of your heart's desire? What if you feel fear or doubt that you will get your goal? Well, your goal is to find the sweet spot. So your heart's desire should be big enough to excite you, but small enough to make you believe that you'll get it. Any fear means that you probably have a goal that is too big and you don't believe in the system, or your goal is probably not the best goal for you at this time. So one of the most important concepts to think about is feel good now. And I want you to write that down. It's not a basic, but it is one of the basic level 1 training. Feel good now is an important piece of training. And if you think that your goal is too big, break it down into steps. And you should be focused on your next logical step, looking through all the way to your final goal. So think about it like you're driving down the freeway and way, way in the distance is your chief aim or your heart's desire. And then imagine that there are all of these signs between you and that far, far away point. And the first sign that you see, the biggest sign, is going to be your next logical step. And that should be what you focus on. Okay, so we went over the training balance scale. We went over who do you listen to and the teachability index. The fourth basic, and you can write this down in your notes, is the 4 steps of learning. All right, so the first step is unconscious incompetence. Unconscious incompetence. So that is, you don't know what you don't know. You have no idea. That's like if you're 2 years old and you have shoes. Your shoes need to be tied because they have shoelaces. You don't even realize that your parents tie your shoelaces. You don't even realize that you don't know how to tie your own and that your parents are doing this for you. Step number 2 is conscious incompetence. That's when you look down at your shoes for the first time and you realize that your mother is tying your shoes for you because you have no idea how to tie a pair of shoelaces. That is conscious incompetence. The third step, conscious competence. That's when you know how to do it because somebody has taught you how to tie your shoelaces. But you have to think about it. You go, okay, where do I start? Oh, okay, I'll cross them left over right. Okay, and then, oh, what do I do now? Oh yeah, I have to make a loop. Okay, and then I put this around the loop and then I pull it through and I tighten it. Okay, that's how I do it. But so you have to physically think. You go, okay, where do I start? This is what I'm going to do next. And then you act on it. The fourth step is unconscious competence. That's where you are now. You have to put on your shoes. You put on your shoes, you tie your shoes. You don't even think that, oh, I tied my shoes. You don't have to think how to tie your shoes. You do it so quickly, so automatically that it is second nature to you. You are unconsciously competent at tying your shoelaces. That is how you want to become when it comes to the basics and when it comes to level 1. We actually haven't even started level 1 yet, by the way. Okay. All right. So practice makes perfect. Is that really the case? No. Practice does not make perfect. Because if you're not doing it the correct way, you could practice all you want and you're practicing to make yourself mediocre. If you're learning how to cook and you're learning how to cook from, a short order cook that works at a dive, then you're not going to learn how to make the souffle, how to make, fine French cuisine. You're just going to learn how to be a mediocre chef. So perfect practice makes perfect. And that's why secret societies have always been about the mentorship. Having a mentor to teach you the proper way to do things is really important. So when you're watching someone else who is unconsciously competent at something, and they're doing it in front of you, and you're observing them, you get to see what they're doing. And then later, you could do it on your own at the conscious competence level over and over and over again until you become unconsciously competent. Perfect practice makes perfect. Okay, so I would like to direct everybody to the Fried Snobs chat room, or not the chat room, pardon me, the text room. And I posted lesson 2 of Your Wish is Your Command. So that's Kevin Trudeau speaking. Now, Kevin Trudeau made millions and millions, like hundreds of millions of dollars. So this is somebody that you definitely want to listen to. That's lesson 2 of Your Wish is Your Command. So that's going to be your homework. You don't have to do it tonight, but within the next 3 days, I recommend listening to that. It's about an hour long, okay? And then also I have prepared some questions. So Truman, are you prepared to post those in the YouTube?
I sure am.
Okay, so the first question, and these are obviously out of order because I took them from the GIN level 1 test. But question number 19 says, does your teachability index change from time to time? What do you guys think?
Well, absolutely it does, because once you reach a certain level, you think that you have it all down. So your ability to, or your desire to change things could go down.
Really good. Awesome. Okay, so question number 22. How do you know that you have a high teachability index?
I think Truman should answer this because he exhibited this today.
I don't know the answer.
You are willing to give up something in order to start your goal by going and purchasing equipment to help you get to your goal.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm actually very impressed with that. So good job. Okay. Now the next question, who do you listen to? I've asked this before, but I want you to think about a different answer now. Okay, I'm going to let you guys in on a little secret. There are several answers to this question. Who do you listen to? Well, you're definitely going to listen to somebody who knows what they're talking about. So someone who has succeeded over and over at the topic that is at hand. So I gave the example of flying to Seattle and talking to Phil Gordon because he knew how to play poker really well and he taught me poker, right? So you want to find somebody that is really competent, unconsciously competent if possible, at the topic at hand. But ultimately, who do you listen to? You listen to yourself because you're going to discern if certain people are worthy of listening to and heeding. Okay, so the next question says, You might not be able to read this on YouTube, so I'm going to read it out loud. 99.9% of all books and seminars and courses on how to make money are written by people who have made a lot of money or have not made a lot of money. What do you think the answer is?
Not made a lot of money, unless it was selling books.
Exactly. So the next question is, generally, where did these people make most of their money? Well, because they wrote books that were about making money and sold them. Okay, so number 9, if a super wealthy person wrote a book on how to make money, did they actually write the book themselves, or did they have a ghostwriter write it?
Most of the time they have a ghostwriter write it and they don't even have a clue what's in the context of the book.
Exactly. Perfect. Okay. The super wealthy believe that the ability to create wealth comes from
Genetics.
exactly. Now, I'm going to delve into this a little bit more. Did you know that you can actually change your DNA vibration? Your DNA has a certain vibration, and when you receive DNA from your parents, you have certain vibrations that are mixing together from 2 different genetic backgrounds. And these will create a brand new genetic signature. And that has a certain vibration that goes along with it. Now, you, who you are, also will come into play. And who you are also has its own energetic signature. So you're going to have one energetic signature meeting another one and creating another unique signature. Now, when a person has a genetic signature that is from a powerful family, like say the Rockefellers, and that person decides to squander their wealth and just become a drug addict, or they just kind of become this playboy and they party all the time and they don't really use their training to better mankind or to build an empire. What do you think will happen to their physical bodies, and what do you think will happen to, for lack of a better word, to their soul? No one has any thoughts? What if somebody becomes a drug addict and just does drugs all the time, squanders their wealth, parties all the time, but they come from a very high vibration?
Ask your question again.
Imagine somebody from a family that has very high vibration. This family is rich, powerful, they build empires, and they keep those empires within their own gene pool. And then a son or a grandson of one of these people decides to squander their wealth. They take all of the family money that they've been given and they just become a playboy. They party, they do lots of drugs, they drink, and they don't build empires. They don't do what their family's been doing for generations. They're just drinking and doing drugs. What do you think happens to that person?
I mean, they're only destroying their own peace. And if they come from that type of background, I don't believe that they fail to see their self-destructive behaviors, so they put up the blind eye, or they put up a wall so that they can pretend they're fine, but they live a life that has no peace. And I just feel like somebody like that, the energies around them get destroyed as well because of the way they continue to engage in those destructive types of behaviors. I don't know if that makes sense the way I'm saying it, but I can visualize it in my mind. Energies, and I have friends who I grew up with who came from, because of the way they continue very to successful, educated, behaviors. Wealthy, I don't know if that makes sense the way I'm saying it, but I can visualize they it in ended my up mind falling into drugs and alcohol or things like that, and it not only destroyed their life, but it destroyed the lives of those around them, and they were left with nothing until the day came when they snapped and had that wake-up call and surrendered and said, that's it, no more. But whenever they fooled themselves into thinking that they were in control, things never went the way that they should have.
Wow, that's a really good testimony. Thank you. You answered that better than I could have ever imagined. Good job.
Thanks.
Okay, and another thing too is you can observe these types of people, and they often end up committing suicide, or they will have, death by drug overdose, that type of thing. So if they don't get that wake-up call and hit rock bottom and then go through some sort of rehab, you'll often find that that person winds up deceased because of that type of behavior. So now I want you to think about the opposite. I want you to think about somebody who is from across the tracks, so to speak. So their family is not very well off. You know the type of person I'm talking about. And that individual coming from that type of family that doesn't have very much money decides that they're going to change, and they're not going to do what their friends and family that's all around them is doing. They're going to go to college, and they do whatever it takes to go to college so that they can get a good job and they can get a high-paying job. And I want you to imagine this person and what kinds of things are going to happen to their DNA vibration.
It's going to improve.
Right. And is that person going to end up in a really bad state, dragging everyone around them down? Or is that person going to do something else?
They're going to bring people around them up with them, whoever's willing to.
Exactly. And you're going to find that too with yourself. If, not like you're from across the tracks, but just think about yourself, where you are right now. And if you decide today that you're going to improve your life, even just a little bit, and you're going to improve your vibration, what is going to happen to the people around you? Who's going to be your friends? Who's going to be surrounding you on a regular basis? Sometimes your friends are going to fall away because you're going to change, and they might not like that because they maybe aren't ready to change. But you're going to make new friends that are at the same level that you are at, or that are actually at a higher vibration than you are currently at, if that makes any sense.
Well, that makes complete sense, because you're putting out positive vibrations, and people who are positive are attracted to that.
That's right. Yeah, birds of a feather flock together. So I want you to be prepared that you might lose some of your friends, and that's not a bad thing. It doesn't mean you have to give up your friends. That's not what I'm saying. But just be prepared that some of your friends might stop hanging out with you as much, or they might start treating you slightly differently because you're changing, and that's okay. All right. So that's why I say number 17, the last question that I put on there. If you want things in your life to change, you're going to have to do what?
Change things in your life. And I've already printed it up and it's in huge letters on my refrigerator.
Oh, good. Yeah, so more about the DNA. You are, with your mind, capable of changing your DNA vibration. Now, this is what Henry Ford was so frightened of. There's a story that's kind of become a legend, and that is that Andrew Carnegie, at the time he was the richest man alive, he decided that he was going to start sharing this with the masses. So he told Napoleon Hill to start an apprenticeship with him. And he commissioned him to write books based on what he learned. So as you recall, Napoleon Hill wrote Think and Grow Rich. But before he wrote Think and Grow Rich, he wrote something called The Law of Success. And now I believe it's sold as The Law of Success in 16 Lessons. Well, I have one of the original copies of this book. In fact, there's not even 16 lessons, there's only 15 in my copy. So it's less watered down than the version that's now available in print in the stores. Now, what happened is, and this is urban legend, or this has become kind of a rumor, but I have been told that it's true, that Henry Ford, when he found out that Andrew Carnegie was going to teach the masses this information, he became enraged and he wanted to stop it. And he did everything he could to try and stop this. So what he did is he stopped the publishing of the book, Law of Success. Later it was published, but he managed to water down all of the information in it so that even when you do read that book, even though you get a few good tidbits, it's really not effective the way that Andrew Carnegie wanted it to be effective. Then later, the book Think and Grow Rich came out, also by Napoleon Hill. But that was also watered down by Henry Ford. And that just goes to show that this information has been fighting to get to the surface so that just regular folks could get this information. So this is really valuable, and people have been trying for many, many years to get this information to general folks, just the masses. And if you treat it as it is, as important as it is, then it is going to give you amazing results, because it definitely worked for Andrew Carnegie and Napoleon Hill and Henry Ford. Okay, so everybody, if you recall, there's actually 5 basics. So the first basic is the teachability index. The next basic is who do you listen to? Then there is the training balance scale. And then the 4 steps of learning. The 5th basic is the most important, and that is that you master the basics. That's the 5th basic. Master the basics. So you can write that down in your notes. Master the basics. Kevin Trudeau talks about in one of his lessons, I believe it's the next one that you're going to get, he talks about the Shaolin Temple in China. And in, I believe it was the 80s, the next one that there was a bunch of Shaolin monks that went on tour in the United States, China, and they toured around the U.S. and showed, I believe it was the 80s, basically just showed what the Shaolin monks knew how to do, which is pretty impressive. If you've ever watched YouTube, they have and they toured around a few things that are, you know, demonstrating their power, and it's pretty amazing. Well, at the end of the tour, one of the monks decided to defect and move to the U.S. And he was kind of running from the authorities for a little while, and he stayed with Kevin Trudeau. Well, Kevin had been training in martial arts, and his master, Master Tai, was teaching him. So he got Master Tai to speak to the Shaolin monk because the Shaolin monk was not very good in English, and he said, I really want to learn the really good secret stuff. Like, I really want to learn the really powerful secret Shaolin stuff. So they talked a bit in Chinese, and he said, I really want to learn. And Master Tai said to Kevin, okay, well, he really want to show you a punch. And Kevin was like, well, no, I want to learn like the really secret stuff. I know how to throw a punch. And so they talked a little bit in Chinese. And he said, well, no, he really want to show you a punch. And Kevin said, no, I want to learn how to do the really advanced Shaolin stuff. I don't want to learn how to throw a punch. I know, I already know. So they talked some more in Chinese. And then Master Tai said, well, he really want to show you a punch, but he wants to see your punch. And he wants to see how good you are. So Kevin was like, okay, well, sure, whatever. So he says, okay, here's a candle. He wants you to throw a punch and stop your punch 1 inch from candle flame. So Kevin was like, okay, well, Kevin goes, sure, whatever. Okay, well, he probably wants to see how much I can control the punch. So he throws a punch, and he was quite impressed. He threw it with a lot of precision and stopped exactly 1 inch. Probably wants to see how much I can control. And he thought, well, so, you know, I want to see. And he was this Shaolin monk's punch, right? So Shaolin monk gets up there, exactly. He smiles at Kevin, and then he throws a punch. So, you know, he stops the punch. This Shaolin monk's 1 inch from the candle flame. So Shaolin monk, and then the flame goes out. And then he throws it. Kevin was watching it as he was like, whoa, that was crazy. Because the way it seemed was that his chi energy had just left his body and blew out the candle flame. It wasn't air or anything like that. It was something else that was there. And if he had actually hit somebody with that type of punch, blew out the candle flame, that energy would have impacted the person as well as the physical energy coming from his arm. He had actually hit somebody. So Kevin realized at that moment that a punch is not really a punch. If you're going to learn how to punch the physical energy, you have to learn how to punch. So even though you think that the basics might be boring or they might be silly to learn, mastering the basics is really the most important part of learning how to throw a punch. Even though you think that the basics might be boring. Okay, so that's everything that we're going to learn today. Does anybody have any questions? Part of learning how to throw a punch. Even though you think that the basics might be boring. Okay, so that's everything that we're going to learn today. Does anybody have any questions? Part of learning how to throw a punch. Okay, last chance. Okay, so that's everything that we're going to learn today. Does anybody have any questions?
You put me into deep thought, so I'm thinking about stuff. I don't have any questions.
You're on point, hippie.
That's everything that we're going to learn today. Does anybody have any questions? Deep thoughts.
You put me into
Jack
deep
Handy.
thought, so I'm thinking about stuff. I don't have any questions. Classic.
You're on point, hippie.
That's everything that we're going to learn today.
I know I missed most of it, but I
You put me in
promise
some
you,
deep
at least
thoughts,
the
so
part
I'm
I've
thinking about
caught,
stuff. I
she's
don't have any
telling you the
questions.
absolute truth.
Classic.
You're on point, Hippie. I know I missed most of it, but I
You put me
promise
in
you,
some All right,
at least
I'm
the
gonna cut it
part
here
I've
then.
caught,
I
she's
don't have any
telling you
Yep,
the
class
absolute
dismissed for
truth.
today. That's lesson 2.
Classic.
You're on point, Hippie.